The BMW Race Days Compact Cup is brought to you in association with Gaz Shocks.
Welcome to Silverstone for the final weekend of the BRACC BMW Race Days Compact Cup. The championship is still wide open as we arrive for this final weekend. Any one of 4 drivers could win. Don't go away.
The 2 races at Alton Park last time out set us up beautifully for the finale here at Silverstone as things came to a head between Joe Wiggin and James Gornall. That contact leading to a puncture for Wiggin and Gornall losing more places later on. That all allowed Steve Daly to get past the pair of them and take points out of them while Sam Carrington-Yates won the race. James Gornall very nearly missed the start of race 2 altogether, losing a heap of positions before quickly starting to gain them back. Joe Wiggin got away at the front with the returning Steve Roberts, but Steve was unable to fight a way through, Wiggin taking a valuable win. Daly was 3rd and Gornall recovered to 5th. That all means that arriving at Silverstone, Joe Wiggin is just 2 points clear of James Gornall in the championship, while Steve Daly is still very much a factor in 3rd. Ian Jones in 4th has a mathematical chance, but needs a miracle.
Go out, drive fast, try and win races.
Simple really when you put it like that.
The wet brings in extra risks, I suppose, and more things can happen that are out of your control, but then sometimes the dry things happen too, so we're just going to go out there and try to have fun.
It's been brilliant, I loved it all year, it's really close, and I just hope this time we come out on top, and it'd be nice to be celebrating tonight, that's for sure. I've got no sort of game plan, just to go out there and do the best I can. AW Tracksport have done a great job of setting the car up again in the wet. We just got a little bit held up by traffic, so could do my own thing, get on with it, and that's all I can do really.
It's kind of a tough one to call at the minute. We're still in for the fight for the championship. We do need a bit of a miracle this weekend, but miracles do happen, so I'm just hoping that brings some luck down this weekend and hopefully win the championship.
So the cars lining up ahead of the penultimate race of the season. It's a damp track after a torrential downpour during qualifying this morning, which has also spiced up the grid considerably for this first of 2 15-minute races. Here's how they line up. Ian Jones and James Gornall share row 1, with Steve Daly and Sam Carrington-Yates making up row 2. Owen Hunter and Joe Wiggin row 3, meaning all 4 of the championship contenders are inside the top 6. Simon Walker-Hansel and Dan Kirby on row 4, row 5 for Jack Drury, and Neil Roach with Harry Ross and David McNaughton on row 6. So here we go then, James Gornall, the final moments of calm before he attempts to take this championship lead away from Joe Wiggin. He's helped by the fact that Joe starts all the way down in 6th. The red lights go out now, away we go. Who makes the best start at the front of the grid? Looks like from the front row it's going to be Gornall quicker than Jones, but Joe Wiggin further back has also made a good start as well on the run down towards turn number 1. On board with John Watt, that's Dan Kirby and David McNaughton making his debut in the championship, trading a bit of pace. Oh, they trade a bit more pace through turn 1. McNaughton gets sideways and spins right in front of the pack. Let's hope that everybody avoided him, otherwise that could have got very nasty indeed. On the run up towards Village for the first time though, it is going to be Gornall from Jones, from Wiggin, from Daly and Carrington-Yates the leading 5, but the top 4 in the race are the top 4 in the championship, just in a slightly jumbled up order. Jack Drury has also gone off at the first corner. The marshals will work hard to try and get that car out of the gravel trap. That's Jim Barrett, who's also had a rotation coming out of Village, and he will rejoin at the back of the field. Splashes his way back onto the circuit. Meanwhile, down the hanger straight come the leaders, the top 5 getting away. It's side by side almost for 6th there. Dan Kirby was almost alongside John Watt, but now he has to turn his attentions behind him because Neil Roach is trying to find a way past him. Then it's Owen Hunter, Jim Benson, Simon Walker-Hansel and the rest all streaming through just outside the top 10. In towards Stowe Corner, then they drop down into one of the best overtaking opportunities on the circuit, and Ian Jones trying to take advantage of that and find a way past James Gornall, and as Gornall defends, it rather stacks up the field, and that almost got a bit close for comfort there between Joe Wiggin and Steve Daly. They are 1st and 3rd respectively in the championship coming into this penultimate round of the year at only 9 points apart. So out onto the pit straight they go. Steve Daly really has to beat Joe Wiggin in this race to keep his championship hopes alive. This is a replay of the start from on board with Jim Benson. He's up the inside of Jack Drury, who gets sideways. That's probably how he ended up in the gravel. Jim Benson also got sideways and then had to avoid an out-of-control David McNaughton as well. On board with Giles Dawson. Yes, there goes Jack Drury. And how on earth did Declan McDonald miss him? And how on earth did Giles Dawson miss David McNaughton as well? That could have really ended in tears, couldn't it? Leaders out onto the back straight, meanwhile, for the 3rd time of asking. And Joe Wiggin is up the inside here of Steve Daly. In fact, he's trying to defend this 3rd place from Steve Steve Daly. The reigning Scottish champion has to beat Joe Wiggin in this race to keep himself in championship contention, and Joe has just about fended him off this time, but now Daly goes back up the inside in towards the right-hander. Wiggin turns in. Let's hope they don't lean on each other. Oh, they do. In fact, they more than lean on each other. Wiggin spins and Daly off into the gravel. I don't believe it. What a dramatic moment that could prove to be. Two of the championship rivals have tangled up at Stowe Corner. Wiggin is stationary in the middle of the circuit. Steve Daly's off in the gravel trap. Now Joe Wiggin needs to be able to rejoin here. It looks like Daly is going no further, but for Wiggin, he has to rejoin and he has to score some points. Well, Steve Daly is not best pleased with Joe Wiggin there. Wiggin continues as down at Vale, his teammate Declan McDonald's got himself caught up with Mark Morton there, and I think possibly Steve Drury was also involved in that, so more chaos. This all means that James Gornall now has a huge lead over Ian Jones in second and Sam Carrington-Yates in third. Meanwhile, further back, let's see what's been happening to Dan Kirby. He's out onto the grass, onto the painted curbs, and they are wet and they are very slippery, and he finds that out and spins across the track, collects Owen Hunter, and is then collected himself by Jim Benson. And then Dan Kirby, not content with spinning once on that lap, does exactly the same thing down at Club Corner at the end of the lap, and then gets a bit of a hip and shoulder as he rejoins for a good measure. So a really dramatic lap that was for Dan Kirby. He's lost a lot of places, which is a shame after his best qualifying of the year. So deep breath, everybody. We're only not even halfway through the race. James Gornall has the lead, a big lead it is as well, over Ian Jones in second, Carrington-Yates in third, John Watt is fourth, Neil Roach is fifth, and Simon Walker-Hansel is some way distant in sixth place as well. There is Joe Wiggin. Now Joe Wiggin, by my reckoning, is down in about 20th place or so. He's dicing with Darren Ball, who's got himself a new car this weekend after his old one was damaged at Alton Park last time out. There's Owen Hunter, who is in a slightly lonely position midfield. Then James Winstanley, Craig Jameson, Harry Ross and Jim Benson all battling together, and then a big gap back to Joe Wiggin. But Joe, as long as his car isn't damaged, should have the pace to catch this lot, so he could still score some good points. The reason it's important that he does so is that drivers are able to drop their two worst scores. He's already had two bad finishes. Remember those races at Castle Coombe where he got spun out by this man, Jim Benson, on the first lap, and then at Alton Park as well. Oh, Jim Benson is now very nearly spinning out Harry Ross as well. You can tell Harry Ross is a former drifting champion, can't you? He collects the car pretty gracefully and immediately goes on the attack and tries to pick up another position as well. So Jim Benson is getting himself in the thick of the action, so too is Harry Ross. Meanwhile, this is the fight for third place. Sam Carrington-Yates, John Watt doing battle. John Watt is signalling, I think, there towards Neil Roach in his mirrors, saying we need to work together here, in which case we could both get past Sam Carrington-Yates, whereas if we start fighting each other, Sam could escape. Out onto the back straight they go, and John Watt tucks into the slipstream, changes up the gears, more hand gestures. Well, Neil Roach, who he's gesturing to, is a fan of the hand gesturing car, isn't he, as we've seen as the year's gone on, but this time I don't think that Neil Roach is really close enough to give John Watt that little assist down the straight that he needs. Bump drafting is common around the Silverstone International Circuit because of the high-speed nature of the track. Giving your rivals or your competitors a bit of a shove down the straights actually speeds the pair of you up, but it is a risky business. On board with James Winstanley, who rather helpfully gets a big pile of mud thrown up in his face by the car in front. Luckily, the windscreen wipers are able to clear it. We can see immediately his vision was impaired. He slowed down and Mark Skeets appeared out of nowhere to his outside. Now, joining back in here with Dan Kirby further down the order, trying to get up the inside of everyone at once, it seems. Gordon McMillan, David May, 3 places in one. Well, it's doable, I suppose, through Stowe Corner. He has to settle for just 2 places gained on this occasion, does Dan Kirby. As for third place, John Watt dives up the inside of Carrington-Yates and goes through. That was a very forceful move, but the gap was there, and John Watt has found his way through into a podium position. So Watt goes third, Carrington-Yates down to fourth, and he now has Neil Roach snapping at his heels trying to find a way through. Carrington-Yates fights back around the outside, but there's no grip out there. He runs out wide, and that, rather than gaining him third place back, actually loses in fourth position to Neil Roach. So Roach goes back through, and down from third to fifth goes Sam Carrington-Yates. So lots of ground lost there, unfortunately, for one of the many drivers who have won races in the 2016 season. Down towards Stowe Corner, and now Neil Roach goes up the inside of John Watt as well. So Roach going through on the inside, he gains 2 positions, goes through, but gets very out of shape indeed. That slows him down mid-corner. It holds Carrington-Yates up, and it allows John Watt back around the outside. So Watt back through into third, Carrington-Yates back up into fourth position. How many times have these places changed hands in this lap? And it may well change again, because now Neil Roach is going around the outside of Carrington-Yates through Vale, and that gives him the inside line for Club. Textbook manoeuvre, that one from Neil Roach, and he's always entertaining to watch, but in this particular race he's running pretty quickly as well, isn't he? 4th place now for Neil, and still an outside chance of a podium. Replay here of how John Watt did get through into third place. There's just about a BMW Compact Cup sized gap on the inside, isn't there? And he squeezes his way through, breathes in, and takes over that third position. So out onto the back straight they go. The leader's now well amongst some of the back markers. There is James Gornall, the race leader, and if things finish as they are now, he will take over the championship lead from Joe Wiggin going into the final race of the year. Out of Stowe they go, down towards Vale for the penultimate time. This is, he's flashing his headlights there at the cars in front of him, who are about to go a lap down, in the hope that they'll see him coming and move out of the way, because he knows that although he's got this healthy lead, tripping over a back marker could lose him a lot of ground, and he can't afford to end up off the circuit here. James Gornall at the moment would look set to be about 8 or 9 points by my reckoning ahead of Joe Wiggin going into the final race of the season, so it's far from done and dusted. Dives up the inside there of Graham Kersley, the silver 23 car. Oh dear, and then it all gets a bit tight through the first corner again, doesn't it there, but he finds a way past the second of the back markers and continues on his way. Jim Barrett, that was, in the number 15 car, who had that spin earlier on. In towards Village they go, the corner where Jim spun on the first lap of the race in fact, and Jiggy, James Gornall, former champion in the British GT Championship, is now trying to add the Compact Cup to his resume. Pretty impressive one it is so far as well. Gornall clips the curb beautifully through the link, out onto the hang straight for the final time. He's nearly 5 seconds clear now of Ian Jones in second. John Watt in third has gained a whole heap of places. Several drivers in fact have done, because we had that wet qualifying session. We had a lot of quick drivers coming through from a long way down the order, and in these drier conditions, not quite bone dry but certainly much drier than they were this morning, they have been able to make good progress. So James Gornall turns his way through Stowe Corner, just a couple of corners away now from yet another checkered flag, probably the most important one of the season so far for James. He's won twice so far this year. It's going to be win number 3 for him. Joe Wiggin, meanwhile, is trying to take 11th place away from Craig Jameson. They are valuable championship points if he can do it, but it is looking really good for this man, isn't it? Because James Gornall comes out of the final corner, he sees the start-finish line, he sees the checkered flag, and he takes his 3rd win of 2016, and crucially takes the championship lead into the finale later on this afternoon. Here's confirmation of the result. Ian Jones is 2nd, John Watt is 3rd, Neil Roach and Simon Walker-Hansel round out the top 5, Sam Carrington-Yates is 6th, Giles Dawson 7th, Mark Skeets 8th, Owen Hunter 9th and David McNaughton in 10th. Joe Wiggin does get that 11th place away from Craig Jameson. That could prove all important. Craig is 12th, Harry Ross is 13th, James Winstanley 14th, and rounding out the top 15 was Darren Ball. As we look back at some of the other finishers further back, Jim Barrett recovered to 28th after his spin. Joe Wiggin crucially got a bonus point for the fastest lap as well, by the way. We lost from that race lots of drivers, including most notably Steve Daly, who is now essentially out of the championship fight.
That was good, wasn't it? I'm pleased with that. I feel like we should have had more wins this year, and that's nice to get that. And I did a lot of work early on in that race. Ian was unfortunate to have a more wet patch, I should say, underneath his car at the start. So I just made a clean getaway and then put my head down and put in some quick laps at the beginning.
Well, it was the most dramatic of first races, and things are only set to get more exciting. The final race of the year coming up next. Hello and welcome back. The Championship Decider is on its way shortly, but first we caught up with David McNaughton to see what brought him to Silverstone this weekend.
Big competitive grid, a lot of talented drivers. You've got ex-British GT champions and stuff up against, so very competitive. Yeah, it's a good big number, 40 odd cars on the grid, so yeah, to get in the top 10 in a 40 car grid's an achievement, so if we can do that today we'll be very happy. Thanks to everyone at BMW Race Days, Paul, for having us down as a guest, and thanks to my sponsors, LM Motorsport, Balgony Motor Company, Track Prep. All the guys have helped us out this weekend. They've all travelled down from Scotland, and so it's much appreciated. Without these guys we wouldn't be here, so thanks very much.
So here we go then. This is how they line up for the final race of the season. Ian Jones has championship leader James Gornall alongside him on row 1. Sam Carrington-Yates, Steve Daly row 2 with Simon Walker-Hansel and Dan Kirby a non-starter. More on that in a moment. Joe Wiggin all the way down on row 4 with work to do alongside Jack Drury. And then it is Neil Roach, Owen Hunter, David McNaughton also a non-starter. That's because we had an initial attempt to start this race which resulted in a shunt for McNaughton, so he is not able to take the restart. But for the final time in 2016 we are underway. Away we go. And who makes the best start from the front row of the grid this time? I think it's Ian Jones who gets himself ahead of James Gornall, but Simon Walker-Hansel gets a better start than a lot of them, goes for the race lead. He makes contact with Ian Jones, who gets sideways, and that rather stacks the field up again through turn number 1, and James Gornall in a very dicey position indeed there, gets edged out over the white lines, over the curbs, and very nearly found himself swamped by the pack. He somehow, though, settles back out in 2nd place. That was a very scary moment indeed for the championship leader. Steve Daly there trying to get 3rd place away from Simon Walker-Hansel out of Village, and he does it. So the order is Jones from Gornall, from Daly and Walker Hansel the top 4. Neil Roach is 5th, and Joe Wiggin is still in 6th place. Now, if Joe Wiggin wants to win the championship, which I'm sure he does, then a race victory with the bonus point for the fastest lap is the only option. Anything less than that, the championship goes the way of James Gornall. Even if Wiggin manages to take maximum points from this race, though, James Gornall, if he's in the top 5, Gornall is the champion. So that's how it all settles out. So essentially, it's win or bust for Joe Wiggin, and a top 5 will do it for James Gornall. Through Stowe Corner they go, out towards Vale for the first time, on board with James Gornall. Well, we've survived the first half a lap. Now we need to try and survive the rest of what is a slightly shortened 13-minute race. Down towards Vale they go. And he closes in now on Ian Jones. How aggressive is James Gornall going to be willing to be here with Ian Jones? Ian Jones no longer in championship contention, just wants a race win. Gornall knows that second place is good enough. And Joe Wiggin, this man here, knows that he has to make forward progress. He can't find a way past Neil Roach there. Meanwhile, at the head of the field, Gornall's had a really good run off the final corner. That's coming off the final corner. Giles Dawson and John Watt get up to all sorts of silliness. How on earth that didn't result in a big crash, I do not know. John Watt continues relatively at unabated speed, but Giles Dawson unfortunately losing a lot of momentum, but they were both lucky not to have a pretty sizable shunt there as Ian Jones, the race leader, goes off the circuit. Ian Jones goes off the circuit at the first corner, and James Gornall goes through into the race lead. So James Gornall, well, that pretty much puts one hand on the championship title, doesn't it, if he can stay there for the rest of the race. Gornall goes through, Jones into second, or down to second place I should say. Here's a replay of what happened further back, and this was John Watt and Charles Dawson who just got tangled together there, I think, and Dawson's car fishtailing this way and that, like a stunt performer of some kind, and luckily he was able to save the car. Now Joe Wiggin, diving up the inside of Steve Daly, has just taken over, would you believe, 3rd place from 7th on the grid. So Joe Wiggin through into 3rd, and Steve Daly down to 4th. These are the two, remember, that tangled in race 1 up at Stowe Corner, and it took Steve Daly out of championship contention, and it certainly hasn't helped Joe Wiggin's championship aspirations, has it? Out over the curb they go. Wiggin now, though, has a pretty sizable gap to try and bridge to get to the leading 2. Look how far away they are. We can't even see them off in the distance. There they are. So Gornall and Jones, then a big gap back to Wiggin in 3rd. Can he do it? Well, he's certainly been the quickest driver here this weekend, hasn't he, really? Didn't demonstrate that in the wet qualifying session, but he had the fastest lap in race 1, and he needs that fastest lap again in race 2. Sam Carrington-Yates gets overtaken there by, can't find a way past Simon Walker-Hansel through turn 1 as the leaders descend on Village Corner once more. Joe Wiggin, the Macatac racing car, into a podium position, but that is not enough. He needs the win, and he needs Gornall outside the top 5. Here's a replay of what happened to Ian Jones. He was defending from Gornall into turn 1 and simply carried too much speed into the turn, ran out wide, and then had to take to the runoff area to avoid the slippery grass and AstroTurf, and Gornall said thank you very much and went through and took the race lead. So 4 laps complete then. James Gornall leads the way, side by side further back for 6th position. That was Simon Walker-Hansel getting back ahead of Sam Carrington-Yates. Those two have traded places several times in this race, as they did right at the end of race number 1, if you remember, and it was Walker-Hansel that snatched 5th place away from Carrington-Yates at the final corner. So James Gornall turns his way through Stowe. Ian Jones seems able to stay with him but not really apply too much pressure for the time being, so at the moment James Gornall will be feeling fairly relaxed. He won't be feeling that relaxed though when he sees the pink and black Macatac racing car of Joe Wiggin closing in very rapidly indeed on this leading duo. It's certainly possible that Wiggin could catch them, but he needs some cars to finish between himself and James Gornall for him to take the title. He's 8 points behind coming into this race, remember. On board with Jim Benson, that's Jack Drury in front of us and Owen Hunter in front of him. This is a battle just towards the back end of the top 10 through Club Corner, out past the Formula 1 pit lane, the Silverstone wing that was built a few years ago, and down in towards Abbey Corner, this dauntingly quick right-hander at the start of the lap. They use the curb on the way in, that's a bit slippery. Use the curb on the apex, that's also a bit slippery. And Jack Drury just drifted a bit wide there. That could allow Jim Benson maybe to get close enough up towards the hairpin at Village to have a go. He's forced to the outside line on the way in. He thinks about going back to the inside, but Jack Drury just about had it covered, so the Roundtech car stays behind for the time being. Through the right, through the left at the loop, and then in towards the link. This tight little right-hander, very steeply downhill though, off camber as well. The cars get unsettled, want to understeer well out wide onto the grass through there. It takes a lot of effort from the drivers to keep the car under control. And then out onto the hanger straight where the slipstream starts to take effect. You can see here that Jim Benson's trying to get the toe from Jack Drury in front of him, but Jack in turn is getting a slipstream from Owen Hunter in front of him. So it's actually Jack Drury who has the quickest speed down the straight, tries to get himself alongside Owen Hunter, and Benson sees the gap up the inside, but when he goes for it, when he committed to the move, he lost the rear of the car and nearly lost control of the car. He did well to hang on to it, but loses momentum. Now, Joe Wiggin is through into 2nd place. He's found a way past Ian Jones, and now he's caught up to James Gornall. So remarkably, from 7th on the grid, Joe Wiggin is getting very, very close to actually doing what he wanted in this race, which is to take the maximum points. He's set the fastest lap already, that's worth a point, but with only 1 lap to go, he has to overhaul James Gornall and get James Gornall outside the top 5. That is a big, big ask. Let's see what happens, though. Through turn 1 they go, and Gornall's a bit wide through there. He's starting to feel the pressure, isn't he? He doesn't know what Joe Wiggin is going to do here. How aggressive is Wiggin going to be? Is there a gap on the inside down towards finish? There is, and Wiggin was always going to go for it. Joe Wiggin up the inside on the final lap of the race, and Joe Wiggin has gone from 7th to 1st. Remarkable stuff, but now Ian Jones joins in as well. He gets past James Gornall. This is not what James Gornall needs, and now Ian Jones thinks about going for the race lead. In fact, he does more than think about it. He gets up the inside through the link. He and Joe Wiggin run side by side. That slows them both down and allows James Gornall to carry much more momentum out onto the hanger straight. He's in the slipstream. He's pinned in behind Joe Wiggin now to the outside of Ian Jones in towards Stoke Corner. This is very, very nerve-wracking stuff indeed for the championship leader James Gornall, but he's back through into 2nd place. So Wiggin leads the way, Gornall is 2nd, Jones is 3rd, and we've got 3 corners to go. What is Joe Wiggin going to do? Is he going to defend and try and hope that more cars can close in? They're a bit too far back though, I think, aren't they? Wiggin is far enough ahead that he doesn't have to defend down in towards Vale. He's late on the brakes, turns his way in, nobody locks up, Joe Wiggin runs wide. This is going to slow him up through Club. Gornall catches him, he hits the brakes, and Ian Jones gets into the back of James Gornall. Gornall sideways, that was so close to disaster, but somehow he hangs on to it. Joe Wiggin takes the checkered flag, but the 2016 champion is James Gornall. James Gornall with a remarkably tenacious drive there. He had to give up the race win to Joe Wiggin, but he didn't do it without a fight, and he holds on to 2nd place. That is enough for the title by, according to my maths anyway, 4 points. James Gornall is the champion by 4 points over Joe Wiggin, and the drivers showing a lot of respect to each other there on the slow down lap. Congratulations all round to the champion James Gornall, but also to the very worthy championship runner-up Joe Wiggin, who's won more races than anyone this year, but has had quite a bit of bad luck. A couple of bad finishes earlier in the year, including that race earlier on this morning here when he tangled with Steve Daly. He comes up just short of the title. He takes the final win of the year though, does Joe Wiggin, ahead of James Gornall, Ian Jones, Steve Daly and Neil Roach back in the top 5. Simon Walker-Hansel is 6th, then Sam Carrington-Yates. Declan McDonnell is next in line behind him, with Owen Hunter and Jack Drury rounding out the top 10. The rest of the field stream through. Joe Wiggin, you can see there, gets the bonus point for the fastest lap, but in the end it just isn't quite enough to take the title. We lost Dan Kirby, Mark Skeets, David May, David McNaughton and James Nutbrown from that race.
I'm gutted. I feel like I got robbed of the championship today. Means I did everything I could have done when I was on track, not being taken out. Gutted. Did what I did. Got fastest lap and the race win from 7th on the grid, and so well done to James. You know, he's done the job this year. But we've had most race wins, most fastest laps, so I feel like it should have been my turn this time.
I'm happy with that. Another podium's always a bonus, and Joe was coming on strong, but I didn't need to beat him, so better to play it safe and make sure we seal the championship than to fight for the win.
So your first championship win, I understand, for some years. How does it feel?
It's good. Yeah, I haven't done much racing up until I came back into the BMW Compact Cup, and I've enjoyed every moment of it.
And what are your plans for 2017 then, as you've obviously had such a successful year here this year?
Who knows, but I own a BMW Compact Cup car.
So all of that means that James Gornall is your 2016 BMW Race Days Compact Cup champion. Joe Wiggin rounds out just 4 points behind him, with Steve Daly hanging on to 3rd in the points, Ian Jones 4th, and Sam Carrington-Yates rounding out the top 5.